Welcome. Thank you all for coming tonight. We are at the very beginning of the concept design phase for the Riverwalk. So what that means is that our team has been working for several months now to learn and investigate and understand as much as we can about this amazing site and this amazing place. Some of you we've maybe had a chance to talk to, some of you might be new tonight, so again, thank you very much for your participation. Last March we had a large public event where we were able to, in a venue similar to this, we were able to talk with you about activities and experiences that you would be interested in for the Riverwalk. That information along and that feedback, along with what we've heard through other online surveys and other conversations, through focus groups and other stakeholder discussions, has really begun to influence how we're starting to imagine the design for the Riverwalk. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. What's next is that after tonight, we will continue to work on developing ideas for the concept of the Riverwalk, and we will come back in late February to share with you a recommended concept design. Part of that process will also be to identify a phase one for the Riverwalk that will continue to move into further design and development and construction hopefully very soon. So the goal right now is that after February, we have a concept design for the entire Riverwalk, and about a year, through another process of about a year of designing and documenting, we would be able to start construction on phase one. Between now and then, we will continue to hear feedback through the website, through online surveys, and through other discussions and engagements with focus group meetings and community conversations. So there's a lot of ways to continue to stay involved and to share your thoughts with us. There's been a long process leading up to where we are today. Part of that was to establish what we refer to as the 4 core values and a framework for the site and for the Riverwalk. The 4 core values are what we think of as what this place needs to become. And those values continue to influence and inform our decision-making process. Of course, that's public access, creating healthy habitat, providing opportunities for historic and cultural interpretation, and economic redevelopment. So again, as we talk with you and as you share your feedback with us, please keep in mind how we can really embody and embrace those goals. One of the first things that our team did is begin to establish what we've referred to as design principles, but this is really the how. These are ideas about strategies for how we can start to imagine giving shape to the Riverwalk and the places along the Riverwalk. Again, through previous engagement like tonight, we were able to talk with many people and hear ideas about the kinds of activities and the kinds of experiences that you're looking for on the Riverwalk. And from that, we established 9 key uses that really are embody those activities that we're hearing everyone is interested in having here. Of course, that ranges everything from again, opportunities for habitat restoration to walkways and biking trails. We've even included the PGE dam operations. For those of you who maybe haven't been on the site, this is an operating dam and waterfall, and so PGE has been working with us to really consider how to integrate and really engage continuing safe operations and maintenance, and also really think about how we might be able to tell the story of that and really embrace that this is an active waterfront. There are other uses kind of outside the grid of 9, waterside dining and opportunities for education or civic institutions. These are ideas that we will continue to explore along with the future redevelopment of the property as ways to really activate and engage the Riverwalk. As we investigate those, we will find opportunity to really engage that potential. Some of that may actually be a part of the Riverwalk design, and in other ways it may be about the adjacent uses. So we were able to also spend some time at the First City Festival this past summer, as well as through additional online feedback, to take those key uses and talk a little bit more about the seasonality of this great site. So I'm sure many of you know that the waterfall and the river are ever changing throughout all the different seasons, and we think that's really exciting. There are times like right now where it's a relatively high water level. Right now where it's really misty and there's a lot of water. There are other times of year when it's drier and there's less water on the falls. We think that is something to be really thoughtful about, and that seasonality, along with all of the other activities and opportunities on the site, can really help us to think about this as a place that people can come back to over and over again throughout all times of year and at different times of day, and that you can have many different experiences and hopefully discover new things every time you come back. So we've begun to develop this calendar, which is also in the corner of the room if you want to take a closer look. We call it the calendar. It's a way for us to start to document and understand what those seasonal opportunities are. So for example, the changing water level, the different uses that might actually make sense at different times of year. So when we were talking with people, we of course learned that having access to the river, for example, that may be something that's more common and more of interest in the warmer months. But there are other things that may be of interest throughout the entire year. Walkways, biking trails, that can really span through all the different seasons. And then we've started to add in other aspects that we're learning about as we begin to understand the target aquatic species and when those can really be present on the site. We're working with CH2M in Stillwater, who there's a couple folks over at the Habitat and Hydrology area who have begun to help us think about the potential to really create new habitat. We've identified 6 types of habitat that we can really think about including and engaging on the site, the kind of wildlife that would attract, and that even includes migratory species. So there are different times of year when you may have different species that you don't see at another time. And then as we learn more, we will continue to add to this document and start to look for relationships and potential to really think about how these can all work together. So as we talk more with PGE and learn more about the operation of the dam, we are talking with the tribal board to really understand and think about the presence and the history of the Native American groups, and of course redevelopment. So we think of it as a living document, and we will continue to add to and evolve this. So if you have thoughts or questions, please let us know. So the way that we've begun looking at the site, this is an image of the existing site from above, is to think about it in 4 key areas. We've done that for 2 reasons. One is that it allows us to break it down and kind of zoom in and look a little bit closer. But also you can see that along the river's edge, there are kind of 4 relatively distinct qualities. So the North Riverfront area being more exposed basalt and habitat areas. The central part of the site is much more built out, and of course there's the area around the dam and Mill E, and even the connection as you go towards Kenema. And I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a few minutes. Leading up to tonight, our team has gone through a whole series of explorations looking at many, many different possibilities for those 4 areas. And we've been able to really explore a variety of ideas, and through feedback from the project partners and stakeholders, the Technical Advisory Committee, and many others, the Friends Group and others, we've begun to narrow down and identify what we really think the core, or what we refer to as the baseline for the Riverwalk will embody. And I'll describe that a little bit more in a moment. But I want to take a second just to remind all of us that the Riverwalk is really intended to be more than a walkway. It's more than a path. It's very easy to imagine a walkway that is basically parallel to the river, that provides access from downtown out to the falls. It essentially exists between Main Street and the development and the waterfront. But what we really hope to, and have heard from everyone involved so far, is to think of the Riverwalk as much more than one path, but many paths, and really this entire space between the river and Main Street within the project area. And what we mean by that is that it's really an opportunity to have many different moments and experiences and ways to move through the site and back and forth between the falls and the downtown area. This also is something that we're thinking about in a very three-dimensional quality, that it's not only about a path that just walks along the surface as we know it today, but that there's incredible potential to create moments where all the way from the surface of the river up to the and through the existing buildings, that we can maybe repurpose some of the buildings, that there can be many paths where you can get up high and gain prospect, or that you can get down closer to the water in different ways. And again, it's really about that entire space, that we don't just need to think about it as one surface. So those ideas have started to inform, again, what we're thinking of as the baseline. These are the areas that we have built some consensus around, that we believe can really be a part of the future Riverwalk. Again, this is just the beginning, so this is just beginning to identify where those places can be. And there are areas that we're continuing to study. So the areas that are highlighted in orange are places that the design team is working to really investigate further and really understand if there's potential and opportunity to really involve those as part of the ultimate Riverwalk design. But today where we are is we've brought to you 6 key areas that are highlighted here, and I'll zoom in a second, that we'd love to hear your feedback and your thoughts on. Again, these are places within the area that we've built consensus around as the future Riverwalk. And we have many different ideas about how you can start to think about these places and design opportunities, and we would really love to hear your feedback on some of those ideas. So if we just zoom in for a moment, starting at the north, this area we have pulled out 2 ideas. One is to think about what we're referring to as explorer trails. We're using this as the location to talk about this, but of course there are many places throughout the site where we can have a lot of different types of trails and really provide that access that we're talking about, getting up high, down low, having safe, accessible trails through the site. And then we also want to hear from you about access to the water. What is the potential for getting down and accessing the waterfront? So a couple site images just to help you orient a little bit. Here you're looking at that general area, and you can, if you see the cylinder call out and the bulkhead, this is a section that we've developed that starts to look at the 3-dimensional space in that zone, and you can, if you look closely, you can see that cylinder area. These drawings are also in the back of the room and are also a part of the workshop that I'll tell you about in a moment, where we've developed a series of studies and a series of ideas that we would like to share with you and hear your thoughts on. So the second area, the South Riverfront area, is we've focused on 2 key components. The pipe chase, which I'll show you what that is in a moment in one of the site photos if you're not familiar, and an area that we're referring to as the public yard. So the pipe chase is an existing structure on site. If you're standing on the site, you may not even know it's there because it's essentially below the surface that you're standing on. But if you look at it from the water, it's this existing feature that we would be interested in hearing from you about ideas about how we may reimagine that. Can we, how might we modify it, reuse it, should we remove it? What are the different ways that we can think about it? And here's this, another section showing an example of that area. So you can see one idea depicted here for how we might transform the pike chase into a part of the Riverwalk. We have many other ideas and we'd like to hear your ideas also. And then the public yard is really a space where we can, where we have an opportunity to have a slightly larger gathering space, and there are different kinds of uses or programming that could happen there because of that larger expanse that we have. And then the last area that we're looking at, we've identified the Clarifier and the Holly Powerhouse Foundation as components that we'd like to talk with you about. Again, the Clarifier is an existing structure on site that we would like to hear your thoughts on how we might, what we might want to do with that. And then the Holly Powerhouse Foundation is kind of in the distance beyond in this image, the Clarifier. And today it's the place where you can get out closest to the falls, and that there are opportunities to create overlooks and places to really see the falls and be really close to the spray and the energy of the falls. And there's an image depicting one idea for how we might think about that area. So what I would love to encourage you to do is to give us your feedback. So there are many ways to do that, and Jessica can tell us a little bit more about that. Before we do that, I'll just remind you that we would love to hear your feedback tonight, and through online surveys and other ways that we can hear your thoughts. And then please come back and join us when we come back in February to share the progress for the Riverwalk design.